Ukraine has attacked Russia's Black Sea fleet in the Crimean port of Sevastopol. The governor of the Russian-occupied region has said that at least one missile has hit the Navy headquarters and urged people there to stay at home because of the possibility of a further attack. Well, these are the latest pictures from outside the main headquarters of the Black Sea Fleet. Russian news outlets have reported that residents of Sevastopol say they heard explosions and saw smoke. One serviceman is missing, that's according to the Russian Defence Ministry. Russian military installations on the Crimean Peninsula have been a frequent target since Vladimir Putin ordered the invasion of Ukraine more than 18 months ago. Well, the military analyst Sean Bell is in the studio and joins me now. Sean, hello to you.
Good afternoon, Bell.
Let's begin. We're talking about more attacks, more Ukrainian attacks on the Black Sea Fleet. Just give us an update on this latest one.
Yeah, the latest one, what we know is Russian claims they've shot down 5 missiles that were trying to attack Crimea, but at least one appears to have got through and hit the Russian Black Sea Fleet headquarters, which is actually based at Sevastopol on the island of Crimea. Now, it was worth remembering that Ukraine doesn't have a navy, or doesn't now have a navy that can combat the Black Sea Fleet. So they've been forced to do asymmetric attacks, and that's why they've been using drones to attack Russian ships. They attacked the Kilo-class submarine in dry dock, and they've been doing a whole series of attacks. And now this headquarters, which is where all the senior officers are, the strategic planning for the Black Sea Fleet is done. So this will be a major impact for the Russians. Now, the Russians never admit to any damage to these these sort of structures, but footage has emerged of a pretty violent blaze going on, and we've heard reports that actually the normal firefighting services has been bolstered by a whole load more emergency service. So there's a pretty intensive fire blazing there. It's a pretty intensive damage that has been done.
This isn't the first time we've talked about attacks on the Black Sea Fleet. So what picture is starting to emerge about what the Ukrainians are doing here?
Yeah, what we need to do is try and link all this stuff up. So for many months, we've been talking about Russian attacks of targets across Ukraine. And largely, yes, some of them have been attacking energy infrastructure, some of them are attacking the morale of the Ukrainian people. But there doesn't seem to be military objectives around most of this targeting. However, at the same time, Ukraine has been doing a whole series of what looks now a lot more coordinated attacks across Russian positions and in Russia itself. And let's just walk around some of those. First of all, we've looked at the Black Sea Fleet. Why they've been trying to push them further east, away from Crimea. Why are they doing that? Because the Russians desperately need logistics support that the Black Sea Fleet provides to support their forces in southern Ukraine. Likewise, Crimea, they've been attacking the actual amphibious assault on the side, also now attacks on the headquarters, because, again, Russia won't want to lose Crimea. It's a jewel in the crown, and therefore it fixes a lot of Russian forces there. If we then look around the country, Dnipro River out beside you, remember the Kharkovka dam was blown, but to stop the Russian forces being exposed on the flank. But now that's all settled down, the Ukrainians are doing regular attacks across the Dnipro. Why? It fixes Russian forces over there. We got to Bakhmut, militarily insignificant, but the Ukrainians are still trying to encircle that. That's fixed over 70,000 Russian force up there that they can't move away. And if you therefore look at fuel depots out near me, there's fuel depots just behind the front line, also in Russia and in Moscow. All of those are designed to distract Russian forces. And so what's actually emerging, this is all part of a very clever, coordinated attack by the Ukrainians.
So is that the plan, essentially, to get the Russians focused on other areas whilst they hit the Black Sea?
Well, with that comes to the nut. What the Ukrainians, the main effort has always been to try and sever the land bridge just to the east of Zaporizhzhia. And what we're seeing here is a little salient that they've been working at eroding. Now, unfortunately, this has been the site of some pretty substantial Russian defences. We've looked at trench lines, dragon's teeth and extensive minefields. And 4 months in, that the troops have to go in first, they have to dismantle everything, then they have to push the sides of the salient aside. That allows the armour to come through. And for the first time, we're now hearing reports that Ukrainian armour has been to the scene to the south of the Russian defensive lines. Now, if that is true, that will be the single most impressive and most decisive moment of this offensive to date, because they can then flood through armour, and then the floodgates can start to open before then. What looks likely is that President Zelensky briefed this to President Biden, because the package of aid that was announced wasn't generic aid, it was all aid that specifically anti-tank weapons, more tanks, more HIMARS systems, all of which are going to help specifically with this offensive. The big challenge, of course, is time. As ever, there's only 3 to 4 weeks to go before the rains arrive in this region. That will turn this area into a complete mud bath. And the danger is then, if it stalls, the Russians will entrench their positions further. We're back to square one. Or, of course, if the winter comes about, we end up with some sort of frozen conflict, both literally and metaphorically.
All right, so still lots of jeopardy here. Sean Bell, thanks very much.